I get to see what makes our state run, and it's the people. I get to see the men and women who clock in early, who build things, who run small businesses, who keep Georgia moving. And they are the reason I do this job, and they're the reason that I'm standing here today. Because hardworking Georgians deserve leaders who will fight for them, not just here at home, but in Washington too. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Derek Dooley. I've heard his vision for our state, and I've seen the kind of man that he is. Derek is a political outsider. He hasn't spent his life climbing the ladder in Washington, and that is exactly the point. He will put Georgians first, he will fight for term limits, and he will take on a broken system of insider training and congressional inaction that has failed us for far too long. And let me tell you why this is personal for me. My grandparents came to America from communist Cuba in 1962 with 3 children, $25, and seeking 2 things: political refuge and, most importantly, freedom. They built a life on one simple principle, that here in America, if you work hard, if you put your faith and your family first, you can do anything. And I stand before you today as Georgia's first Latina constitutional officer because of their sacrifice. And the values they handed down to me, faith, family, hard work, and freedom, are conservative values. There are so many Georgians who share those values, but who too often go unheard and unasked. They are waiting for a leader who will walk into the room, who will look them in the eye, and who will earn their trust. That is exactly who Derek is. Before politics, Derek built his career as a coach. He will tell you about sitting in living rooms with families who did not look like him, asking them to trust him. He earned that trust by showing up, by being honest, and by keeping his word. And that is the kind of leader our party needs at the top of the ticket. One who can fire up the voters who've always been there for us and reach the ones that we too often leave behind. We need to send a different kind of leadership to Washington, and Derek Dooley is that leader. But none of this happens without you. Tomorrow is Election Day, and I'm asking every Georgian within the sound of my voice to make your plan right now, to find your polling place, talk to your neighbors, call your family, and get them to the polls. I'm proud to endorse Derek Dooley, but my endorsement doesn't fill out a ballot. Your vote does, so let's finish strong. I want to bring up someone who knows a thing or two about what real leadership looks like. When this governor tells you he believes in someone, that carries weight. Because I have seen this up close. He and First Lady Kemp do not put their name behind just anyone. So it's my honor to introduce a man who has delivered for our state time and time again, our Governor, Brian Kemp.
Thank you so much, Barbara. What an incredible American dream story. It is an honor for the greatest First Lady in the country, Marty Kemp, and I to be here this morning. And it's been an honor for the First Lady and the girls and I, or at least part of the girls, being with us on these 77 different counties that we visited with the Dooley campaign, over 90 different events. And we've seen that we have seized the momentum in this race. But you know, as I've traveled around the state, people have asked me, like, why are you doing this? Why are you and the First Lady getting up early and getting home late when you're not even on the ballot? You know, why are you not only supporting and endorsing Derek, but why are you out there working so hard for him? And there's one reason. I want to win our U.S. Senate seat back. And there's really 2 reasons why Derek Dooley, because that's the next question I get. Well, why Derek Dooley? Well, number one, we've known Derek, both Marty and I, our whole lives. Both our parents were great friends with Coach and Miss Dooley. I spent a lot of time at their house. Coach Dooley was not only an idol of mine, he was more than that. He was a mentor, like a second father. He was a great influencer on young people that grew up around him in Athens, Georgia, and really saw his leadership. As I got older in life, seeing how his players, even today, would do anything for Coach Dooley just because of the time that they had with him and what a great leader he was. So we know the fabric of Derek Dooley. We both also played for the same high school football coach, Billy Henderson. who was a tough man, but he was a great motivator. He taught us life lessons like making sure you look right, making sure you act right, making sure that you worked hard, and that he instilled in us, it didn't matter what your background or what neighborhood you came from, you could do anything this life has to offer as long as you set your mind to it. So we know how Derek Dooley was raised. We know the caliber of person that he is and the great family that he's created with his wife, Allison. But the second thing is he's a political outsider. And if you just take personalities out of the equation for this runoff election, and you look at where Republicans have been successful beating Democratic incumbents around the country, it has been political outsiders that have had the most success doing that. And you think about Bernie Moreno in Ohio, you think Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania, you think Tim Sheehy in Montana. They were all political outsiders. They all could stay on offense against those incumbents' record, because all these politicians, just like Jon Ossoff, will say and do anything to anybody when they're in state. And then they go to Washington, D.C., and they voted 98% of the time with Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, and AOC. That does not represent the values of our state. We need somebody who can stay on offense against Jon Ossoff's record in November. That is the second reason that I'm supporting Derek Dooley, because he is a political outsider. He is the candidate in this race that has a vision and a plan to really change the way Washington, D.C. works. And he'll talk to you a little bit about that. But that's why Marty and I are proud to support, endorse, and be working for Derek Dooley. Let's get the vote out tomorrow and send a change agent to Washington, D.C. Our next senator, Derek Dooley.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for your kind words. Thank you, Governor and the First Lady. It has just been an amazing experience traveling around the state. A real honor to not only have their endorsement, but also to see how they have just worked tirelessly to help us get this Senate seat back. And so it's just a real honor to be around them, and I appreciate the leadership they've given our state. This election really comes down to two things. The first is we have got to get the best candidate to beat Jon Ossoff. I think people are surprised that here we have the most popular governor in our lifetime, conservative, pro-business, pro-job, but the Republican Party has not won a Senate race in 10 years. It's been a long time. And we have to learn some lessons from that. You know, I was amazed as I've driven around this state for 10 months at how little people knew about Jon Ossoff. It surprised me. But then I thought about it. You know, he really lays low. You never really see him grandstanding on CNN or standing next to Chuck Schumer or AOC. And I'm convinced that it's strategic, because deep down he knows what he votes for, what he supports, does not reflect the values of the Georgia people. Now, if we're going to beat this guy, we have got to have a candidate that not only can bring in a wide, diverse group of Georgia voters from all over the state, but like Governor Kemp mentioned, we have got to stay on offense, on his record, to educate the Georgia people on what he stands for. Many of things we're still dealing with today. This 40-year high inflation he voted for 3 times, the open borders disaster that he supported, the woke stuff on our kids. There's a laundry list of things that we have got to educate the Georgia people on. And I'm here to tell you it's not going to be done by a typical D.C. politician who's going to be on his heels on defense for a litany of issues, including the House ethics investigation for abusing our taxpayer money. Which leads me to the second reason why this election's important. Because I got in this race because Congress has changed. It's not working for the people the way it used to, and I have frustration with the leadership up there. And guess what? The Georgia voters that I've talked to over the last 10 months, they are just as frustrated at the careerism that's going on. We have 74 members of Congress right now that have been up there 20 years or more. The corruption that's going on, and I'm not talking about just Mike's ethics investigation for abusing taxpayer money. I'm talking about sitting on committees, access to information none of us have, and their wealth goes off the charts. But the thing that's driving every Georgian nuts, it's the inaction. Nothing's happening. We all see it. A lot of yelling and screaming. Nobody working together to deliver results. Nobody thinking about the people they represent. always fighting for themselves, not the Georgia people. And guess what? It does not have to stay that way. That's why I'm so committed to ending business as usual in D.C., and it's why I've outlined in our Georgia First contract some of my key priorities that we're going to fight every day to get, such as term limits, such as banning this stock trading, and such as changing what happens because of these government shutdowns when Congress doesn't do its job, taking away their pay and privileges, so we end this nonsense. We do not have to accept it, but it always starts with leadership, and it's time to send a different kind of leader up to D.C., somebody that not only has a little common sense and shares our values here in Georgia, but most importantly, they're going there for the right reasons, not for some long political career or to get rich or famous. They're going up there to deliver results and always put the people of Georgia first. And that's what my promise is going to be and has been to everybody. Now, I'm here to ask everybody not only for your vote, but to get the vote out. We have got to show up. I think we had about 300,000 people early vote, so there's a tremendous amount of voters out there that I'm asking them to show up so we don't look up in November and we say, these are the guys, let's get the right candidate. And I'm just going to finish with one reminder to all of you that a vote for Mike Collins is a vote for Jon Ossoff, but a vote for me is a vote for the people of Georgia. Thank you very much. I'll take some questions.
Yeah, let's talk about the Donald Trump endorsement. Coach Dooley and Governor Kemp, you both worked very hard either to get Trump's endorsement or at least to keep him on the sidelines. Did you feel betrayed early Sunday morning when you saw, or when you woke up Sunday when you saw that social media post for Donald Trump endorsement in your life?
My position has not changed since the day I got into this race. And I said I'd be honored to have everybody's endorsement, but the most important endorsement I've been working toward every single day is that of the people of Georgia, because that's what matters most. And that's what I'm going to continue to focus on for these next 24 hours.
Governor, you want that question?
Yeah, well, look, I was very clear with the president of why I thought we needed a political outsider in this race, and the best political outsider was Derek Dooley to beat Jon Ossoff. You know, obviously he disagreed with that, and the voters are going to weigh in tomorrow to settle that score. But the fact remains that the First Lady, the girls, and I know Derek Dooley is our best chance to beating Jon Ossoff. And it really comes down, as Derek just said, to electability. And my message to the voters out there is, you know, do you want somebody that can beat Jon Ossoff on our ticket and really to lead our ticket in November and make sure the Republicans do well up and down the ballot? Then you need to vote for Derek Dooley, because he absolutely, in my eyes, is our best choice.
We've all seen how important President Trump's endorsement is in a primary. I wonder if Coach pulls it off tomorrow and wins, does not getting the president's endorsement help or hurt him in the general election?
Well, I'm not worried about any political equations or keeping score. Everything I'm doing is to make sure we win in November. I've been very clear about that. I talked about that this morning early about my endorsement in the governor's races, making sure that we have the right people at the top of the ticket that can win, and make sure, you know, we retire Jon Ossoff from the U.S. Senate and make sure that, Lord help, Keisha Lance Bottoms is not leading our state in the governor's office. So that is driving my decisions. I'm not worried about, and look, I understand that people think differently, but, you know, when you're governor, you got to make tough decisions every day. And I know there's some people that may like the decisions I've made, some of them that may not, but at least people know where I am. I mean, they got to decide who they're going to vote for. But the real endorsement is tomorrow. It's with the people of the state, and they're going to decide who they want at the top of the ticket.
Coach, what is your message to voters who have been waiting for the president to weigh in, and he's saying he's going to support the other guy?
Very simple. A vote for Mike Collins is a vote for Jon Ossoff. A vote for me is a vote for the people of Georgia.
Coach, I guess the sappy question then. What have you learned?
Sappy.
Sappy.
What have you learned about
look that up.
on the campaign trail since you got in the race? This is your second time with an election now after the primary, first time doing this.
What I've learned more than anything is more about the people of this great state. And it has been really inspirational to me. You know, it's so easy to look around and get cynical. You live in this little internet bubble people live in. But as I go around the state and just see an incredible amount of people that have faith, they have community, they work their tails off to provide for their family, there's a lot of love, and it's inspirational to me on the future of our country. And that's why I've always said I'm running, because I care about the future of our country. I have so much pride in it. I got 3 kids in their 20s, and all I want is that they have the same pride in it that we have. And I've seen that on the ground. So I don't get caught up in all the politics and the internet and all that stuff. I go what's on the ground, and I know how the Georgia people feel.
What are you hearing from voters as we get closer to the runoff tomorrow? What's their main concern? What's bringing them out to the polls, and how are you kind of assuaging their concerns?
Their number one concern around the state is the frustration of an inept Congress that is not working for the people. And they want change. And they need not only change leadership, but they want change in how things are done. So we get better people up there running, and we incentivize them to work for the people of Georgia, not for themselves. And that's what I'm committed to do.
Last question.
I have a quick question for both. Governor Kemp, my question for you is, if endorsing Lieutenant Governor Jones, you're endorsing the insider over the outsider. But in the Senate race, you're saying Georgia needs an outsider. So how can both be true? Can you help explain how that's not contradictory?
Well, I think most Georgians out there realize their view on how the state's operating and the favorabilities of what we've done here in Georgia, cutting taxes, giving teacher pay raises, standing with our men and women in law enforcement, having record economic development projects and job growth, no matter your zip code, and a whole litany of other things, is very favorable. And we want to keep that going, really building off the great legacy of people that came before me. When you think about Sonny Perdue, Nathan Deal, what we've been able to do in my administration, working with the Republican leadership in the House and in the Senate, giving $12 billion back to the taxpayers. But then you think about Washington, D.C., we're running against their inaction, like Derek just said. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any polls on the approval ratings of Congress, but I think it's down into the teens now. And we got to send a different leader to Washington, D.C., which is why I've been supporting Derek Dooley this whole time, because we need somebody that can post up against Jon Ossoff on his record of inaction or being acting on things that Georgians don't support, that don't represent our values. And Derek's going to change that and run against that. And he won't have to be on his heels defending his own record or ethics charges or anything else.
And that'll do it. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming.